What's up? It's Jim from On Point Samples. You've probably clicked on this video because you've either never produced music before or you want to learn how to make hardstyle instead of house, techno, drum and bass or rap beats. I can 100% guarantee that even if you know nothing about hardstyle production, at the end of this video you'll be able to boot up your DAW and create something that's worthy to be called hardstyle. If you never produced music before, make sure to join our Discord server for a full free beginner's masterclass that walks you through the basics, and it's linked below. I'll first quickly introduce you to the history of the hardstyles and give you a small roadmap to the subgenres, then I'll show you the production elements of hardstyle, and finally I'll show you how to approach producing a hardstyle song from scratch. So sit back, grab a snack and enjoy.
Hey, is this where the party's at?
The harder styles evolved in the 90s in the Netherlands and Belgium as a counter-movement to other genres like house, techno and drum and bass. The kick is probably one of the most important parts in the harder styles, and back at the time it was generated by 909 synthesizers like the TR-909, combined with distortion pedals and equalizers. A bit later in the video I'll actually explain how you can make one yourself. In the early 2000s, artists like The Prophet drove the genre forward, and more subgenres started to evolve like hardstyle, rawstyle, hardcore and reverse bass. The genre became more and more popular, and the most well-known festivals like Defqon 1, hosted by Q-Dance, with its first edition in 2003, started to grow more and more in size.
And all in a sudden, 5 minutes later, I think that 7,000 people stepped out together. The area was full and everybody was dancing.
De tijd van hardstyle tussen 2001 en 2008 is eigenlijk wel de gouden tijd.
Around 2010, subgenres like euphoric hardstyle started to take off as well. Well known for its happy and emotional melodies combined with pitching climax kicks. With Defqon 1 going from some 30,000 visitors to even 250,000 in 2023. These festivals are known for their specific themes accompanied by exclusively produced festival anthems each year. So if you want to get more familiar with the evolvement of the harder styles, simply listen to some of these artists and their earlier music. I probably missed some, but these are some very well-known hardstyle producers and artists. Basically from like 2015 and onwards, things started to escalate, and now we're dealing with kicks that resemble microwave kicks, PVC kicks, zaag kicks, and I fell off the stairs so I sampled it kicks. You know what I mean? People speculate this is due to TikTok and short attention spans. We just basically want maximum entertainment and the most crazy sound design there is. These are some of the most important subgenres that you should know of the harder styles. The first one is hardstyle. Then we got rawstyle, which is just, high power, very raw.
Rise of Rejecta!
Then we got rawphoric, which is kind of a mix between euphoric hardstyle and rawstyle, but it's euphoric, it has melodies. And we have reverse bass, with obviously a reverse bass character. And then we got Gearbox. It features extreme sound design, but done very well.
Gearbox!
Then we got Frenchcore, which is around 200 BPM. And we got a tempo, which is just aggressive and very fast. And then finally we got hardcore. Listening to all of this, you can imagine that a lot of people have a lot of different ideas of what hardstyle really is. But as long as you understand it's just the harder styles and it has subgenres, and as long as you have fun and enjoy the genre, everything is fine. As you know, the kick is one of the most important parts in hardstyle production. And that's why I laid down all these kicks that I took from our sample packs. And they should give you a very nice and good overview of all the kicks you can actually go for and what we're talking about. So let's start with the basics. Remember the TR-909. Sounds like this. And then you can distort it with an EQ, and I'll show you later how to do it, but then you get this. Or you get this. And if you keep distorting it, you get this. And this is the old school way of making hardstyle kicks. Get into the like more hardstyle old school stuff, you get kicks like this. And those were basically made with 909s. If people are talking about like making hardstyle kicks, and this is where a lot of confusion comes from as well, because people think they need to take a 909 and then distort it and get this sound. And that's really, really hard. So this is an old school hardstyle kick. This one is one as well. Then we got a gated reverse bass kick, basically. It's a very raw sound. It's gated because it's just reverb, it's rumble. Then we got a reverse bass kick. And as you can hear, this one does have a key, a bass, so that's why I don't call it gated. And then we got this one as well, which is another reverse bass kick. Going into one section that we call anti-climax. Hardstyle, or the harder styles, are known for having very aggressive drops and then maybe a melodic drop as well. So when we're talking about the drop where no melody is playing, you could call it the anti-climax. And in the anti-climax, you use different types of kicks. Depending on the genre, you might go for different kicks. So when you're doing raw style, you might not use a reverse bass kick. But a reverse bass kick sounds like this, or this. The bass basically opens up on the offbeat. Then I want to get into mid-intro kicks. This is characterized with a punchy EDM kick followed by a snappy short bass like this, or this, or this. Then we have psy kicks, obviously taken from psytrance. It's just a bass on the quarter notes like this. Then we have gated kicks, but we have them in the modern way as well, and then they sound like this. And we have this one. And we can go into the gated reverse bass kicks. I just wanted to show you that I made reverse bass kicks. We have mid-intro kicks, we have psy kicks, but you can combine everything. Like, there are no rules. You can literally combine whatever you want. We have a gated kick, but a reverse bass character. Vroom, vroom, it's on the offbeat. Or we have a mid-intro vibe. It has the punchy EDM kick with a rumble. But we also have a gated psy kick. So then a new type of kick that also came along, a color kick. And the most famous one, and the one that's being used all the time right now, zaag kicks. Zaag is the Dutch word for saw. It has a saw character. It feels like you're sawing into stuff, you know what I mean? These were taken from up-tempo, which is like 200 BPM, taken down to 150 BPM, and it's basically like raw tempo. You could call it like that as well. So then going into raw style, these could be used as an anti-climax kick, but they can also be used as a melodic kick. It doesn't really matter. And some of these you would hear in raw style as well. It really doesn't matter. A raw punch followed by a crunchy character. This one too, it's more modern. Or this one. Or this one. This one. This one is a little bit more old school. Or this one. Definitely old school. Let's get into the industrial category and you'll immediately understand why it's industrial. You'll hear these a lot in the label Gearbox as well. As you can hear, it's weird sound design, very distorted, but it's dope. And finally, we have the climax kicks. So these are pitched and you combine them with the melody. And later in the video, you'll see me do that as well, making a drop with a climax kick. But we also have euphoric hardstyle kicks. These are more for happy melodies like this. And then finally, we have climax hardstyle kicks. So there you go, a big overview of every kick type. So here's the cool thing. All these kicks that I played, you can download these for free. I've created a beginner sample pack stacked with a bunch of samples taken from our premium packs because we wanted to give you something to get to work with, right? You can get that for free on our website with the link below. Don't miss out. A Okay, so FL Studio comes with native plugins. These plugins are instantly downloaded, they're made by ImageLine. Same goes for Ableton or Cubase, you just get those. The thing is, you cannot make professional hardstyle without having a few third-party plugins. And some of those are free and some of those are paid. So I've made a list of every free and paid plugin you should have if you want to make professional hardstyles. I'm not saying you have to pay for them, but if you're gonna pay for something, at least get the good plugins. So they're all linked below in the description, so you can immediately go to the URLs and download them. So we're first going to talk about synthesizers, generative plugins. One that's really good and probably the only one you'll ever need is Serum. Serum is just the best plugin you can get. Another one is Vital, and this one is free, and it's basically sort of a clone of Serum. And I just want to show you every plugin is capable of making the same sounds. It's just that some synthesis is a little bit better than the others, and sometimes it's a little bit more powerful, and you'll build a preference. Here's the lead. And in Vital, this one is called Spire, great sound design as well. You have Silent One, it's a plugin that a lot of people use. Then you have Dune 3 and Viper. So Dune 3 and Viper are one of the best plugins in terms of lead and chord sound design for hardstyle and screeches because they emulate Virus TI in a certain way. I think you can even load a Virus TI on one of these plugins, but they have very full and fat synthesis, as you will hear. Especially this one. So if you want to go for those hardstyle leads, get either of these. Viper's pretty cheap, but they're paid. And a bit later, I'll show you that you have to make layers, but if we duplicate every sound, it sounds a lot fuller immediately. Then there's a plugin called Nimble Kick. Nimble Kick automatically pitches the kicks. It will automatically pitch any kick you draw into this. And you might wonder, like, why do I need that plugin if I can just pitch my own kicks? But the thing is, FL Studio at least doesn't really have good pitching options, and just being able to just drop a kick in, immediately have it go through a algorithm like this, Time Machine Stereo, is great. I think this one is 20 euros. It's one of the best investments you can do because it makes it so much easier. These are probably all the generative plugins you'll ever need, okay? You can make leads, screeches, basses, chords, plucks. You can make anything with it. However, there's a few plugins that you have in the mixer, and in the mixer is where you put effects on the sound. So for example, if you have Serum and you played it right here, you can render that into the mixer like this, and then you can add effects right here. So there's a lot of effect plugins. So I loaded up a bunch of effect plugins that are necessary to have. So OTT, it's an over-the-top OTT compressor, and it's free and it's really good. It gives you that clear and powerful EDM sound. So then you have Distortion, which is free as well, and this is just a distortion plugin. So when you make kicks, it's great to have that. Then we have an inflator, and this is going to be used on kicks. Really gets to the next level. You can open it up like this. But Frank Paul, who makes free patcher equivalents to plugins, just figured out it's a wave shaper that you get for free in your DAW on half sine mode, and you just open it up like this. Kickstart is $5, and that will help because you need to make room for the kick in the drop, right? When you're playing the kick, you can still join the free beginners course in our Discord where we explain all of this in detail. If you want to join that, link below. Then we have Valhalla Room, which is a reverb plugin. FL Studio comes with reverb. You have Fruity Reverb 2, kind of metallic, but there you go. You can also use Fruity Convolver. Anyways, this is one of the best reverbs in my opinion. It's very clear and powerful, but you can find free plugins. So that's Valhalla Room. And finally, we have Waves CLA2A. There's multiple plugins like this. They're called analog tube compressors. They compress the sound in a very good way. And you want to throw this onto your leads and chords, and I'll show you later why. So combined, it takes the sound to a professional level, and that's why you need some of these plugins. Those are all the plugins you basically need for hardstyle. You can find them linked below into a free section and a paid section, and my favorite plugins as well. So before I dive into making a hardstyle track from scratch, I first want to show you a few things that you have to know. I'm going to use Serum. Now, Serum is a paid plugin, but it's also on rent to own. So if you have like $8 a month, I think you can also get this one. It's the best plugin, okay? You can make experimental sounds, you can make warm leads, you can make powerful stuff, you can even make kicks with this. If If you instantly want a lot of good presets, it's in the beginner sample pack. We added presets there for free, so grab that down below. Let's start off with the basics. When I load up Serum like this, you start off with one oscillator. So you can open multiple oscillators. You have the sub oscillator, oscillator A and B. You have a noise section. So all this is oscillation. Then you can pull an oscillator through a filter like this. And you can select any of these 4 oscillators that I just mentioned right here. And they will also go through the filter. Then you can change the filter. And I'm not going in depth, but there's a bunch of different filter sounds. After you've added that, you can also go to the effects right here, which happens after the generation and this filter. And you can add stuff. So you can add distortion, you can add a compressor, you can add reverb, delay, you can add another filter. So this is just a copy of this thing here, but then you can change it so it's a different one. It's important to note there's an order. So if you add distortion, it's first going to get distorted, then you get delay, then you get reverb, and then you get a compressor. If I first add delay, the delay will get distorted. You know what I mean? So understand that. The same goes for this mixer channel here. If you add distortion first and then reverb, it's an order of plugins. The final thing why Serum is so dope is because you can add envelopes, which is a shape that will hit every time you hit a note. Then you can assign any envelope to any knob in Serum. That's why it's such a good plugin. You can add it here, you can add it there, you can add it there, you can add it wherever you want. Then you have LFOs. These will just move, you know, so if I add this to the volume, it's going to wobble. I can change the speed. I can change the thing going from to quantized to like a random seconds, hertz thingy. So I put it on trigger, which means it starts LFOing whenever I trigger it, or on off and it's always moving, no matter when I play it, or envelope and it's only going to play it one. So that's how Serum kind of works, okay? So Hardstyle sound design is kind of similar. You can make a lead, then you can make that a chord, and with a little tweaking, you can make that lead a screech as well. And if you understand that, you'll understand that it's very tight-knit and everything is very close to each other, and it's easy to go from one thing to the other. So if you want to make a lead, so let's just load up the lead here from our melody pack. You can enable mono, so it's just going to play one note. And then you can add one thing, unison and detune, which is going to be called a supersaw. And most leads are a supersaw, and they sound like this. You can add another oscillator on top, and this is going to be detuned a little bit. So we have a lead tutorial, I'll link that below as well, where we create a bunch of leads from scratch. I'm just gonna duplicate the plugin, so we have our lead right here. I can also load in our chords from the melody pack. And if I just disable mono, it's going to play every note because we have multiple chord notes. Let's make it less detuned. One sound can result into a bunch of different ones, and you can load in the bass. So the bass just needs to be low, you know? Let's go low. Now we have our bass as well. And now the filter comes in handy because we don't need the highs. And then finally, let's take that lead and try to make a screech with it. You can go from a screech to a lead pretty easily. So here's our sound. Let's just assign a little bit more detune. But then if we take envelope 2 and make it look somewhat like this, it's going to be a dive bomb. And we can just add that right here to this knob here, the coarse pitch. Right, we have a screech sound. What we can do then is go into the filter, and then we can change that to a bandpass. Assign both of them. Add drive, so it's more volume. And then we can just add that envelope here to the cutoff range. More resonance. And now we just add distortion. Or this. For screeches or heavy kicks, 0 square is perfect because it's the most heavy distortion you can find in Serum. And then we disable the detune slightly, you know. And we can have that move around all the time with an LFO as well. And we made that from this. So if you want to learn more about that, we have a ton of tutorials where we really go into depth about these topics. Now, why we use different plugins is, for example, we can go in and find a different plugin that also has leads, but it's just generated, it's synthesized a little bit differently. As you can imagine, these things run on programs, they run on like bits and zeros and whatever, I don't know. It might result in a slightly different sound. So if you make your full lead layer, your full song based on one plugin, it maybe lacks a little bit of power. So that's why sometimes I just get Viper into the game as well. So in this part of the video, I'm going to show you an incredibly important part about hardstyle production. People usually try to make a break, and in the break you have a very big lead, right? It sounds something like this. We have a lead, then we have this kind of harmony on top. We have a bass line that's really nice, but we also have this ducking reverb. Finally, it sounds very big. And people think they get that sound by just using 2 presets, and that's not how it works. The first thing you want to do is open up Layer. In Layer, you just add that melody. It's not assigned to anything. So this thing will then be assigned to a plugin. So you just click on Layer, and you click on the plugin you want to assign, and you click Set Children. So now when I play this, it's going to play that plugin. So I duplicate my lead right here, and I'm just going to load up some presets that we made before. Here's one, no effects please. I'll load up one more. And then if I go into Layer and assign all 3 of these, it's going to play 3 plugins at a time. And this is where your computer will crash. So you have to render out each individual part. As you can hear, that's a lot better. You want to do the same thing for your chords. So as you know, there's a lead and there's a chord part. So for the chord, just open the chord plugin a few times. We're going to have 3 leads and 3 chords. And then I'm going to use presets again. There are some free presets in the beginner pack that we made as well, obviously. So then Layer, we're going to assign these 3 plugins, Set Children. Now we get our chords and we put that in the Layer as well. And there you have your professional layer, you know, and it's obviously because we use good presets, but I'll promise you it's very easy to do this once you understand it a little bit, and the tutorials are linked below as well, where you make your own leads from scratch. Get them into my mixer, okay? This is a trick that you need to understand. It's so important to work organized, so you get all of them down, 2 channels next to them a little bit as well, because we want to create headroom to make it cleaner. We're going to assign these 3 to the channels next to them, like this. This is leads, just work organized, always work organized, okay? Leads, and then we have our chords, and I give it colors to make it easy to see. So leads, chords, get them into one channel, and then call that total, okay? Now we can see why those plugins I mentioned come into play. First of all, it's going over 0 dB. That's why I just load up an inflator, but you can do that with a wave shaper as well. It's going to clip against 0 dB. Then I add OTT, because it gets better. It's more powerful and more present. Then the plugin that I always use is Waves CLA2A. Finally, what you want to do in your leads is get rid of the bass. So always use type, high pass, order, steep 8, so you can really cut the sound. What I see a lot of people do is just do this, like, oh, the bass is gone. It's not gone, it's just reduced. But don't cut the low mids and don't cut the bass, just get the sub gone, but there's presence in this area. And now you can find the balance between the leads like this. Then there's a way to make reverb. So I also really need to show you this because it's a huge part of hardstyle production. You can then duplicate this channel where everything is 100% dry. It's so important, but it's 100% dry. Total goes into this channel. And in here, you're going to make a reverb send. So that's why I use Valhalla Room, because it's a great plugin. Valhalla Room and 100% wet, a lot of decay. Then you always want to add OTT because it just pumps it out. Then I add an EQ. With this EQ, we're gonna just cut the bass, and I muffle the highs slightly. Then you add a fruity limiter, and you just go to compression, and we're gonna find the total send. So it's going to compress the reverb whenever the total send is playing. So when the leads stop playing, it opens up. That's the ducking reverb effect. So you just take down the threshold and the knee, which is going to be the amount. And then the speed is going to be the release, as you can see. or this. So find the balance. The threshold is kind of the wet knob at this point, so if you do this, there's no reverb. Open it up a little bit. And then you can also get ducking delay by going to 3D delay 3 and then putting it on ping pong with panning, so it's left and right, and then you just put it in 100% wet, no dry. And then bandpass around this range, and I would just use 8, 4 or 6. Just so you can make a delay channel and you can make a reverb channel. So just click on save, get that into this thing as well. Change this to Valhalla Room or any plugin that you want that does reverb. And then we have our fruity limiter and we're gonna assign total again. And here's a trick that I don't see a lot of people do. Get both those channels into one channel again and take the total channel into this as well. So now we have our dry and attune channel and the 2 wet channels into one. And in this one, just add the CLA again, because now we have the wet sounds and the dry sounds and we're gonna pump it together with compression. But if it's too much, just take down the compression here. Now, remember that I talked about harmonies. What you want to do is make a melody on top of it. You just take your harmony and you add that not in this layer plugin, but just in a new serum. Just find a sound like this. Something like a little bit of detune. And it's just very sawy and it's clear to hear, but you can use any lead, but I just like to use this, right? You want it to mold together properly, so find the balance in the master, find the balance in the octave. So then the only thing that's missing is the bass. There's a few types of bass that you can go for. So first I'm going to add this into the mixer so we can mix it properly. What we can make is a Reese, so take it down. How you make a Reese is just add unison like this, add a filter, and just add distortion. What you can do as well is find another bass, initialize the preset, and instead of using this Reese sound that we made, go here, Tools, click on Chop, and we're just going to chop it up into quarter notes. And then we can add LFO1 like this, on envelope, and add that to the cutoff. Add some unison, changing the filter type, or drive. So I'm just trying to show you different hardstyle basses that we usually use. Or you duplicate this one, and instead of having it play all the time, you just take it up an octave. So you get tum dum dum dum. Or this one. Or this one. The final thing we use in layers are pads on the background. A pad is just a sound that maybe unison like this, filter like that, high pass filter, just select this part. And then in this part here in the effects, we're just gonna cut the highs a little bit. Then we add a lot of reverb, like a lot of reverb. And then we can just find the pads in here, which are just gonna be the chords, and then we have this. So now you know how to make a full layer. The first time you'll do it, it sucks, and then after a few times, you'll get better and better. And remember, we got free lead layer presets in our beginner sample pack with the link below. In this part of the video, I wanted to explain kicks. And before you can dive into making your own kicks and actually breaking the rules, you need to know what the rules are. So if you have a different way of making kicks and you're watching this and it's like, this guy doesn't know shit, like whatever. This is just what most of the people use and it works for me, so here you go. A kick is made out of a punch, reverb, and a crunch. So if you have those 3 elements, you can make a good kick. It sounds like this. This punch is made out of this, combined with a click, combined with a bass. Okay, so together, click bass, punch, without the bass. It's important, right? So this is how you make a punch. Just find a raw sound, get a click, which you could get from a snare, and just make it very short, and a bass, which is just a kick, and then you take the bassy part. Now the reverb, I'll show you how you make it yourself, but I took a reverb tail. We have kick builders, where you can just literally take kick parts and like Lego them together into one kick. As you can hear, it has a little bit of reverb here and at the end. Combined. Generally, the key of this punch needs to be the same as the reverb. And then finally a crunch, which is gonna mold together right here. You see the setup here. This is our punch part. Raw, click, go into punch channel like this. And we add the bass. And then the raw punch that we just made, like this channel right here, goes together with the bass into the full punch. Then we have our reverb and we have our crunch. So these three parts, the full punch, reverb, crunch, go into one channel. This is what you want to do as well. Separate them in the mixer and get them together. So in the together part, we're going to upgrade the kick. So remember me talking about an inflator. Why you want to use an inflator is because it just improves the kick, as you can hear, okay? So without, over 0 dB. Let's clip that to 0 dB when I enable it. And then effect, more power. And then we add soft clipper in front. Always want to do that with your kicks. And squash it, but not too much, okay? Then you want to add an EQ in front of this, and you can then change frequencies. And instead of changing the tone of the kick, you're actually going to boost frequencies that are going to be clipped sooner than others, right? So that's why you change the kick sound. The basic idea behind professional rawstyle and hardstyle kicks is having this really nice sub. So if you reduce the sub, you get more mids. But if you boost it, you get this. As you can hear, the reverb can get overwhelmed, so you don't really hear the reverb anymore. Then you want to add Pro Q3. Just make sure that it's a nice brick wall like this. Stereo placement, side. We're going to make sure that the sub is mono. Finally, to improve the transient, you want to load up a transient shaper, add some attack, add a pump, at a very high speed. It's just going to affect the punch only. But as you can imagine, when we push it too hard with the soft clipping and the clipping in general, we're gonna just make it one brick wall. We just want to make sure that we have some transient in the kick. You can hear the difference, especially when I do it more. And then we can just render the kick with Edison. Gonna show you the difference why we use that processing. And it's very important that you understand this setup. Always add an inflator, soft clipper, EQ to boost the sub or not, EQ to put this on the side, and a transient shaper to improve the transient. That's how you can create even a shitty kick and make it a bit better. Right here. And then we can have our before. Lots of dynamic range, not properly blend together. You want your kicks to look like this. Before, after. Sounds good because we have the right samples as well, obviously, but the kick processing part is so important. So when you know this, it's going to be a cheat code. So I want to show you how you can create mid-intro punches real quick. You put Serum or any plugin, but Serum is fine. Analog BD Syn. Just get envelope 2 like this. Add that to the coarse pitch, and envelope 3 as well, which is going to go to the coarse pitch too. And then we have this sound. Octave down. Get that into your playlist right here. You can click there, hover over, and you have this sound. Normalize it, and then just put that on the place of the punch, because we're gonna try to, see how that sounds. This sound, pogo it. There you have already that, bouncy EDM kick. So if you don't have pogo, because you don't have FL Studio, go into Nimble Kick. You'll have to pay for this one, but load in this sound right there, select the beginning, and make pogo, okay? But then you just take this punch, you can make it shorter, and then you can just go back into Serum to make it fit your tune. So you could have a little bit shorter attack, lower kick, and then render that one more time. Put it in again. There you go. And then we have this sound if I make sure that it goes through the punch channel. Laser kicks are possible as well, when you do more attack. So that's how you make the more reverse bass mid-intro kick. This is a good starting point. Don't forget to download that free beginner sample pack and just join our Discord server for that free masterclass. It's going to help you a lot if you're just struggling with what I'm trying to explain right here. So finally, I want to show you how to make reverb from your punch, because it's pretty important, but it's also very simple. It's just select the punch sound right here. It sounds like this. You just want to duplicate this sound, completely dry everything together into a new channel. This one is going to go into the final channel too, but instead of just being dry like this, you want to put it on Valhalla Room, 100% wet and a bit of decay. Add OTT, and we have this sound already. I'm just going to disable the dry signal. It's really pumping and it's clear. Then you add an EQ to type low pass, muffle the highs, and type high pass to get rid of the lows. Then you get a fruity limiter, right-click the gain, no ceiling, so it's not limiting. Then you just take that limiter right here, and you can then just make a shape where it doesn't play in the punch and it opens up. Final trick is you can play with the stereo separation here, make it mono. You don't want that, make it more stereo. So now combined, it's gonna sound like this. And we also get the punch back. And what people normally do is just not use OTT in the muffling. And then just combine everything in here, you know, and then add the processing. And then you can hear that the reverb makes a huge difference in your kicks, okay? So just remember this setup, because when you make a mid-intro kick, you're just gonna use a punchy kick. You're not really gonna use the reverb, but you're going to use the crunch. So it's always punch, reverb, crunch for any kick you make, okay? So just remember that. Now, if you're really into these old school kicks, right? The 2010 era, or maybe 2000 gobber stuff, or even euphoric kicks, like everything before we started getting crazy with Zaag kicks and all this bullshit. It's all based on 909s, distortion, EQ, distortion, EQ, distortion. And that's why I wanted to include this part, because not a lot of people use this anymore. It's a lot harder to make these kicks than the modern kicks. You're limited by your software, and we're not right now. Everyone has the E-Kit kick in their FL Studio standard drums folder. And that's a nice basic 909 kick to start with. And I'm going to show you the power of EQ distortion. Open an equalizer and open a Mistortion. So I'm going to use Mistortion 2 because it's free. You can download that below with the link. We're going to clip it. This EQ will come in handy later. EQ distortion. Now we're going to tweak it. You can already hear that hardstyle sound coming through. Add an inflator, clip it against 0. And you can go back into different EQs. An important part about these kicks is asymmetrical distortion as well. Waveform, you can kind of see it as in the middle there's a line, and you can just distort one half of it, right? The top half of the bottom half means it's going to cut into either one of these sides of the waveform. And it will make it more crunchy. So let's also change the place of this plugin. If you want to know how these kicks were then used to make euphoric hardstyle, it takes so much time. Basically, you render this out, created some sort of punch in here, right? So then we're going to use this punch, render this again, but we're going to make it more crunchy. And we can automate knobs, so that's why you want to have more mids. So this knob is going to be in the mids. I'm going to automate it so it opens up like this. So we can also have one more EQ, so this one and this one both gonna move. Like this, then we're gonna render this again. And you're starting to melt these two together. So then we're gonna melt the punch into the other one where it's more crunchy. Process that again, you know, it's a really long progress, and you get both of these in your mixer. I'm just trying to show you real quick that it's, you know, that's how they used to do it. And I'm not really good at this style. You inflate it, and you take both of those together, and then you take... automate that in the beginning and during the kick. Maybe distort it a little bit more. You render that again. You do the same process. You keep on like stacking stuff together until you get like euphoric kicks, and it's very hard to make. Download the free sample pack, don't forget, and there's more info in our beginners masterclass in our Discord. Okay, so for the next part, you're probably wondering like, thanks Jim for the simple overview, but I need to make my own kick parts. Well, no worries. First of all, in the beginner sample pack, you can get those kick parts for free. Also, we have a bunch of free tutorials with a link in a playlist, which you can just watch and you'll understand in detail. But I also will show you pretty quickly how you can make a normal crunch, a gated crunch, and how it just works, okay? But how you can make a raw sound is like, you can literally take a snare. Add this here, that's just a snare, right? Everyone has a snare. You can literally take a wave shaper, an inflator, and then just boost something in the beginning. Like literally. Like that's a raw sound. Then combine that with a click and a bass, and at some point you'll get there. So just remember that's how you could do it, okay? The mid-intro punch as well as this bass, I showed you, just take those two envelopes to the coarse pitch and then render that in Serum and make it pogo, and like, there you go. But then for the punch reverb, you also know how to make that. So then we're left with two crunches. Like how do you get this, and how do you get those gated crunches? These. How do you get those rumbles to like fat sounds, you know? It's actually pretty straightforward. Let me just disable that sound. So we just have the reverb. You get graded crunches by just taking this combined with some kick. So you can either use that mid-intro kick that I just made and that you can make yourself as well. But you can also just find any EDM kick on Splice in another sample pack. Just use any kick, make it longer, just stretch it all the way out. Just make sure it's the right pitch. Take that down. So it's a nice and low enough pitch, I guess. Get that into your mixer, and we're gonna combine that with the punch reverb. So we have our punch reverb. And then we're just gonna put them into one channel. And so if we take that channel right here, we have our punch, reverb, and the crunch, or in this case, the bass. Just add distortion. And now it's just important that you make the sub mono, like this. You can add shit in front. And then you can also just play around with stuff like dispersers. You can make very weird sounds with this. So now you know. And then if you combine everything, we're just going to get this into this channel. And the bass goes into this channel too. And we're just adding the punch too. That's a beginning sound for a gated crunch. And finally, we want to know how to make this. Those take a little bit longer to make, but they're also pretty doable. You just open Serum. You can find a wavetable that kind of moves around like this. And just make LFO1 like move around this wavetable. Then we're just going to distort it with, you know, a diode. And then in front, we just make sure that we find some weird flanger. Add it like this. You can have this move around very slightly. That could be a crunch, but you know. You can add some noise. And then just have it like this, you know. This looks very simple. But it took me a long time to get to this point, you know. But, you know, there's your crunch. Like, you can literally use this. And then it's just about how you blend that together with your punch. And you can process that more once you get it down. But like, there's your crunch, put it into the channel. You can tweak the crunch, I'm sorry. And you can process that more later with other techniques. But that's the basics, right? Just get a bit of movement into a crunchy sound and blend that together. So that's all about the kicks. You know how to make a full layer, so it's time to get into the next part. Alright, so now it's time to make something from scratch. You can see my workflow to kind of understand what type of way you want to go when you make songs. So I'm going to use this layer that we just made. And I'm just gonna choose this one to write a little bit of a melody. So how I start working on melodies is I just choose a key, and I like F because just the kicks will work well on F. I'm just gonna make a long melody like this, F. Okay, so I think I can write something like this. I'm just trying to make something in the minor scale. It's not a happy song, it's going to be a little bit of a minor song. Something that helps me for inspiration after I wrote my bass is find a nice preset. So you can use a piano, you can use anything that sets the mood. We have our Hardstyle melody suite, which is filled with Serum presets, and I really like this piano. So I'm going to just duplicate this bass line. F is the bass, right? So then we can already go up a full octave to get the fourth note in the chord, which is going to be full octave. So then we want to make it the first chord minor. So the minor third is the third chord in the minor scale. So if I load up stamp, you can literally find a minor scale, natural minor somewhere. Yeah, Aeolian. You can just place that in. So if we place an F, you can see first to third note. So a minor chord is made of the minor third right here, which is going to be G sharp. So then we always have a perfect fifth, which is going to be this. what helps is you take these chords on the background, you open up another plugin, like in this case, this bass is not going to be used. And we just duplicate this a few times like this, under everything like this. And in view, right here, you can enable ghost channels, which is going to show you the notes on the background that are in other channels. And we can go back to this and we can just easily make a melody that fits the key. So right now, you can see everything hits every note, and then we go to our chords. So this is a chord like this. And then for the second one, we want to have a major one, because we cannot use a minor chord, basically. I'm trying to just basically hack it into existence, but this doesn't work. That means you're out of skill, but for now it's fine. Another minor chord, and then probably another minor chord here. But we can do a modal interchange, which means you're gonna borrow a chord from another mode or another skill. So in this case, we're using the minor skill, the minor mode, Aeolian mode, and the major skill is a flavor of the minor mode. We're not going into this, but if you want to know more about it, it's called modes. So you can look up a lot of cool tutorials about that. We're in a modal interchange because the major equivalent of this fifth chord, which is gonna be C, is gonna be a major. So then we can go this. We get this dramatic feeling. But to spice this up, I'm gonna do inversions. So inversions mean you just start with a different bass note. So for our bass line, we cannot do this, but for our normal chords, we can. We can literally just rearrange however we want. We can literally have that go up, we can duplicate the C onto this one, or we can have the A sharp right there. It's not gonna affect it because the bass line is directing the whole sound, and this is just gonna add a little bit of flavor, so. And then we get this. And then we can duplicate that sound because I want to fill up the spectrum. This sounds beautiful. And now I can start getting inspired. You know what I mean? So I can just start like hum a melody, see if something comes to mind, or you just start placing notes. So, you know, like you can, it's cringe, but you can just, you know, okay, let's see. Or whatever, you know. I'm trying to switch up the sound because I cannot just duplicate this, right? Okay, and then we just duplicate it because repetition is fine. I'm just trying to follow the notes. This is also a very Celtic thing to do, I think, where you just kind of try to follow the chord notes. You can always spice it up later, but you kind of want to imply the chords that you're hitting. Do 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 do. D, 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 D. It's not the best melody, but you can see that it kind of like we're trying something. It's raw style, it's more raw for it. But then what you want to do is just you take your chords, basically, your chord melody, like this. And then you just want to hit that pad, like you want to kind of make sure that everything is on the same key, like this. There you go. And then we're just gonna hit every chord note like this. So just duplicate that sound however you want it to duplicate it, you know, like this. Make sure that it hits every chord note. And then I think in the total send, I'm just gonna decrease the highs a bit. So then I want to spice up this sound. So here's how you can do that. First of all, get your chords. I always start with a break layer or with my drop. If I start with the break layer, I want to have the whole song down. You know, I want to have the mixing down. I want to have the reverb down. Everything has to be perfect. I also want to make it sound full. So then you can just go to this thing here, duplicate the pad, tools, and you can arpeggiate it, right? And you can change the sign or the way you want to have it sound. So you can flip, alternate. You can do it per block or per chord or per time. 3 octaves maybe. So let's try to make a plug. You can have that playing around, you know? We can distort it and put it on bit crush. EQ it, and do some cool stuff with delay. And we can just mix that in, and then it will probably sound pretty cool. And what I like to do with these type of things is just automate the panning. So I can just click on serum panning, make this automation an LFO or amplitude, and I'm going to put the speed down like this, just going to move around, and then we just make sure that we have the tension up so it becomes a sine wave, sort of like this. So then we have our arpeggio down. So another trick is you can find nice arpeggiators like sequencers. A plugin that a lot of people use sometimes is Nexus. Nexus is a very old plugin, but it's been updated and it has some dope presets for sequencers. So for example, you can go to arpeggios and you can find something like this. We can maybe use this. We take our bass, take Nexus into the mixer. This one is cool. I'm gonna get rid of the delay and the ping pong. And if you mix this in properly, you're gonna have a very nice and rhythmic break. It's a nice trick. Just get rid of the bass. And widen it up. So I want to work on the reverb real quick. The most time I spend on anything is just this, because once this is done, it's easy to make a cool song once you have the dope layer down, you know? Because you can break up every element and you'll see that in a minute. Instead of having ducking, reverb, and delay like this, I'm just going to open up the effects that we had on these leads. So that's going to be reverb and delay, and then another one here. Because I'm going to show you ducking, reverb, and delay, but without having that channel set up. So it's just going to be wet channels. And it's going to go through that compressor. And it also sounds good. So now I'm listening to this thing and I'm like, okay, I'm maybe missing a big lead, like a Viper lead. So in Viper, we have a nice preset pack available for that. You can make better hardstyle sounds with this. So for example, I take a wet one. I love this lead so much. I'm gonna maybe use another one, but for now it's fine. Get that into the mixer and gonna add that to the leads as well. And then we have even more stuff playing. There you go. So now we have our full break. I think we're happy with this. I'm gonna take my two pads and I'm gonna put that in one channel and in one channel. So now we have the first pad, we have the second pad, right? So we're gonna just break that down. Our first one and our second one, I'm gonna put it here and here. So first one, adding that pad right there. Then we have our reeds that we can separate too. So instead of using the full reeds that we're using right here, I'm just gonna make a smaller reeds that we can use for the part where it's not hitting. So I duplicate the sound, just make it a little bit detuned and a little bit of filtering. Then we have a bass sound too. In the mixer you go, and we have a bass sound we can add here. It's gonna be very soft, but it does the job, right? And just take down the bass a little bit because we want to make the break hit harder. So then we can go back and we can check out these two things. So we have our arpeggio and our bass sequencer basically. This is only going to be used in this part right here. Then we have our layers. So this is our full layer. And we have our reeds obviously. So let's add that reeds to the real reeds. So now, once the break hits, we have this full sound. So this is how you start off a song. Then we have this sound, for example, the pad. I want to have this filter in. And I notice, by the way, that the pad and my piano are on the same channel, so I get it into a new channel. Pad and this string that comes in, you know? I'm gonna just muffle the highs like this. I'm gonna create a filter. So it goes from low to high during the song. And we can maybe have it start here and just open up. And we can duplicate this and make it go lower. And then as you can hear, it just starts evolving. A cool trick is you can take your bass, mono it, and put it on always gliding. So whenever you go up and down, it's gonna glide. And that's a nice effect to have, you know? Cool. So then we go into the break. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go into the next part. And in this part, we can maybe add a small kick like this. Then we make it shorter because we don't want it to have the full length. And we're gonna add a clap too. We're just duplicating this all over the sound as well. Both of these samples into the mixer. And then we're just gonna put both of them into one channel. And we're going to make sure that the bass is a little bit muffled. We want the kick to be a little bit shorter. And we want the clap to be a lot softer. And you can maybe use a different kick because I don't like this one. And now it's important that you have all these break sounds that we've used, right? And that they're going into one channel so we can instantly add sidechain to everything. So these go all into one channel. And we can open up Kickstart. And put it on 37 so it's not really sidechaining, but yeah, there you go. So create an automation clip and just have that not do anything until the clap comes in like this. Now we're getting somewhere. So how you make a build up is like you can either, have the kick loop a lot. So you can just have this duplicate. So it starts like this, just goes faster and faster. You can determine the rhythm however you want. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say how you want to duplicate the kick. You can do this, and then we can just draw in a simple build up. I just want to show you the song structure more than I want to show you the actual way of doing it. This is a nice build up. Now we have something like this, the bass in. And that's the point where you get another kickstart into the game, but with a little bit more sidechain. You want to have the simple one with 20% for the break, but we also want one that's 100%. So with the 100% one, you're just going to make sure that we can just now bring in nimble kick. And we're going to pitch a kick. So nimble kick, right? We get nimble kick. Remember that kick that I quickly made with the samples? Well, there you go. This is a very raw kick. Get that into nimble kick. Chop it. Stretch the bass. And just the punch, whatever. Get your nimble kick in here. And this is going to be combined in the drop. So then we can just put nimble kick like this. And in nimble kick, why it's dope is for the punch, for example, we can take that down a bit. And for the bass, pretty nice. In the wet and dry channel for the leads, I'm gonna make sure that the sub is gone. It's not my best work at all. Like, I'm not enjoying this sound. I think the melody is doing a big part of not liking it. It's not a really good melody, but now you understand how you approach it, a melody, So let me take a better kick like this. And we can just... So now we have our kick, right? You can just render that out. So let's do that. We're gonna go into Edison, play the whole thing, or you just render it. And then we can drag that in. Get rid of nimble kick, so now we have a sample to work with. And this is important because we're going to make kick rolls. So select the kicks that you're gonna use. It's only obviously when the chord changes, so that's at these points. You can get rid of everything else. And now you have your pitched kicks like this. Just make sure that it's declicked. Duplicate all of this. Now we can just add a few kick rolls wherever we want. Dum dum bum bum bum. So dum 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 dum. Down. Boom ba-dum ba-dum bum. Boom bum boom bum. Boom dum boom dum. Dum dum. Okay, I'm trying to follow the melody here so you can see the melody. Dum 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 dum. We can loop it. So now we have some sort of kick rolls going on and it's better. Now you might wonder how to improve this. Okay, what you can do is duplicate the kick. Just gonna select the punch, get that next to this thing. Then we're gonna do the reverb trick for the punch. So you gotta get Valhalla Room, 100% wet, OTT, take that down, muffle the highs with an EQ, just get the bass out of there like this, rid of the highs. And find a limiter, gain automated, so it only plays for one beat, like this. And then you can just make that open up. And that is just for you to have a punch reverb on top of everything. Because as I said, if you distort it too much and you change the reverb and you change the distortion and like the crunch is gonna get the distortion, you just ruin the kick. So if you then get the punch reverb into the final kick channel and you just add an inflator so it like compresses together and some extra volume. And you can take a kick, and then you make it unique and you just change the pitch. Boom, 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 boom. And you boost it to make sure that you have proper kick. Dump on, make this unique, make it go down. Just make it unique, and we're just gonna reverse it, but make sure that because it's a full length like this, you need to find the first thing because we reversed it, you know what I mean? So we're gonna not take the right key if we start it there. You wanna start it here, and then we're gonna reverse it for the first part of the drop. Cool, so now we've created this, right? Now, what maybe might be missing is some vocals. So that's why you have sample packs with vocals, and maybe we can use our vocal suite. So now some tricks on the master, right? I just quickly show you the arrangement. So tricks on the master, you take your master volume, first of all. And for the build-up, you want to slightly take that down. So it goes from 80% to like, let's say 73-ish. 70, make it bigger so you can actually do that here. So 73, make it go down. Make it go up again, so it's at the normal volume. Now the drop hits harder. Another thing you can add on your master is a EQ. With the EQ, you just make it look like this. Put it on linear, so it's not really gonna fuck with the phase. Automate the lows like this, and then just have those lows cut a little bit through the build-up, just to make the drop hit harder. And then what you can do is take a sweep and just have those in the build-up right here. We're gonna add a few effects, right? We can add that in the build-up as well. Now we have 2 risers. Then we maybe use a transition like this. And we're gonna use those in between parts like that. So then they're gonna transition parts, put those at the 8-bar sections when new stuff happens. Let's see. Use this one here. Or just adding all these effects just to spice up the song. Gotta make sure you've used the right ones. And you can add a bit of delay to these risers. You can add a few vocals maybe, like eyes, see if something works.
The fire is burning, but my mind is still.
It's in C or an F, so gotta go from C to F is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So the vocal's gonna go 5 up.
The fire is burning,
Yeah. And we're gonna use a foreman to take that down.
looking for answers, but the truth is blinding. I'm falling.
And then how I would approach, for example, a anti-climax. You could just use your climax kicks, which is just a little bit more of a old school method, but you can use your climax kick, just loop that, and then add a screech. Take this, and then we're gonna use that screech that we previously made in the video. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, something like that, you know. Go into our screech and change the tone. Into the mixer, and I just want to show you real quick that you just cut the bass. You can do the reverb and ducking delay trick again, but you can literally also add a lot of reverb and delay on the screech here. Like this, delay, ping pong, put it on 1, 4, 1, 2. Add decay. Like this, add some compression with a threshold. In the mixer, you just add that CLA to A. And then just add kickstart. You can make a gated kick, you can change your kick. Like you can literally just... And it's the final result.
But my mind is still looking for answers, but
something like that. And then the final thing I want to show you is mastering. So you can, for mastering, I literally just take down the 300 Hz range slightly. I add a Pro Q3 to make sure that I can make the sub mono on like the sub for real on the sub, you know. And the plugin I really like is Fruity. I really like is FabFilter Pro MB, and then I like the Mix Buzz low mid cleanups. So basically the mids are muddy. Don't remove too much of the mids, but the mids are muddy. And then I like to add Maximus, and on Maximus I use Clearmaster RMS. If that's too much, I just take a soft clipper in front and I just take down the post gain slightly until it stops clipping in Maximus. It's a world of a difference. There you go. So don't forget that you can download this whole template for free with the link below, including the beginner's sample pack. That means you get a bunch of shit for free. You also can join our beginners course with the Discord link below. If you have any questions at all, like you're stuck on a point in this video, just drop them below and I'll get back to them. I just want to make sure that everybody gets like the help they need. You can always go back to this video if you're struggling with a certain part. I hope this helped you out, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, and I'll see you in another video. Cheers.